It's really cool to just have people in their 20s in general on this platform to, talk about real life shit that people who are 20 years old, have to deal with.
Yes, everybody. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to another week of ISD and School Detention. You are here with Devonn
and Pierce.
And today we have a very special guest for you.
Very special.
Normally we bring you guys, rap artists, media personalities, fashion producers.
Yeah, everything with entertainment.
Yes, big change of pace, and I'm very excited for this conversation.
Yes, we've been waiting.
Yeah,
we've been waiting.
Definitely. And it kind of feels like a bucket list situation. Because not a lot of people are able to talk to who we're about to speak to and have the conversation we're about to have. So without further ado, guys, State Representative Rita Mayfield.
Hello, and thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to this. This is
my
first time, with your show, so I'm excited.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
In this time and era with everything being, heightened, everyone can be very sensitive about things. Transparency can be kind of hard, especially from someone in your position. So we appreciate you joining us.
Absolutely.
Alrighty. So first
I even combed my hair for y'all, so you just, be thankful. I had French braids yesterday, so.
Well, I'm sure it gets exhausting always having to dress up to the nines and look a certain way when you go out places and things like that. So it's okay. This is big. We're both wearing like jeans. We normally don't wear jeans.
Yeah, I'm wearing like sweatpants, and I almost put a suit on today.
We definitely come here look like bums. I'm not gonna lie to you completely. So, first things first. How did you get your background started in politics?
Actually, I kind of fell into politics. I was working on the Navy base. Had absolutely nothing to do with politics at that time. And there was just a lot that was going on with our local school district, nepotism, grants being given out, dollars being spent, sole source dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars of taxpayer dollars just going to people's friends. It just made no sense at all. Our education system was not where it needed to be for the amount of taxes that I was paying, at least in my opinion. When you see that, the number of kids that are dropping out, when you see the academic numbers that are coming back, and there's money coming into the district, I'm faithfully paying my property taxes. I want to know where's my money going. Started going to a couple of the school board meetings, hooked up with some individuals there. We started an organization, it was a parent organization called COSLA, Citizens Organized for School Leadership Accountability. And we started stalking those school board meetings. We were asking questions. Can you explain to me why we needed to purchase 3 toilets at $1,500 each? Exactly where these toilets go, and where they made of gold. And then, it would always be the same, oh, that was an error. We didn't, oh no, that's it was a typo. Really? Because this clearly says $1,500 in the budget. So I want to know where the money went. And we just started really looking at those budget dollars and the numbers and who was getting contracts and who was related to who and who was friends with what. And it just really didn't make any sense because these were our tax dollars that, we didn't feel were being spent appropriately. And that led me to running for the school board. Myself, I ran on a plaque. Well, actually, I ran twice. The first time I ran, I didn't win, but I didn't give up. I kept going to those school board meetings. Next time around, I did run. I ran with 2 other individuals, Sunny Domingo Garza, who became the first Hispanic ever to serve on the school board, and Mark Hahn. And between the 3 of us, we made a lot of changes. So anybody out there who don't feel that your voice can be heard, it absolutely can. You can make a difference. It only takes one.
Yeah, that's real. So going from a regular, you were obviously in the military, but going from a non-politician to a politician, was there anything that kind of surprised you, kind of entering that world that you didn't know about previously?
Yes, I got yelled at the grocery store so many times. Oh my God, you have no idea. People are not nice to elected officials. They just don't care. It's like, look, but I understood that passion. I understood where they were coming from because that's what led me to run. But I don't think you're ever really prepared to get stopped, in the coffee aisle and to be told, well, you need to do this and you need to do that. And yes. So, just being really open and not taking it personal, but really listening to what it is that the individuals are asking for.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think you handled it well, because I don't think I could have, to tell you the truth. But I think it's also like you understand where they're coming from, because we've all been in that position.
Yeah.
Or if we look at elected official or politician, no matter it be a local city mayor or the president of the United States,
Right.
we always look at them and we're very critical at times
Mhm.
for the positions that they're in, because often we don't understand the other side of what you guys may do or we do, and we only see what we're affected by. Sometimes, like you said, it's negligence, it's negligence, it's things being misused and being treated poorly.
Yeah.
But other times, it's not understanding. So, what do you wish the public would understand about politicians?
That there's a process. As much as we want things to change, we can't just press a magic button and they change tomorrow. It definitely takes community involvement. You hear a lot of people, they complain, but then they don't go to the meetings. Well, it doesn't do any good to sit at home on the phone complaining to your girlfriend, because that's not how you're going to get change. Or going to the local library and just complaining to whoever will listen. If you want change, I don't care if you're talking about the school board, park district, city, state level, you have to get involved and you have to participate in the meetings. If you're not part of the conversation, then you can't affect change. So I have to just encourage. If you're not happy with your school district, go to those school board meetings. And yes, they're long. Yes, you only get your 2 or 3 minutes to say what you need to say, but you are there. You are actively letting those elected officials know that you are there and you're holding them accountable, because if you don't do that, they will continue to run rampant and do whatever they feel is best, and they may not be representing your best interest.
So how do you feel that we on a community level, and as well as you and other politicians, could kind of promote that and bring people to those meetings? Because I do know that some people I'm sure a lot of us have seen videos of various, community meetings. And although you have people that are bringing up very valid points, even a lot of facts, a lot of times, sometimes it seems that the politicians are just kind of there. And once they leave, it's like, okay, now back to whatever I was doing. So how do you feel that we can kind of change that narrative and really get people to understand that the politicians are here to work for us?
Because
sometimes you have to reach out to those politicians directly. Mm-hmm. You go to the meeting, you give, your spiel, I'm here because I care about X, Y, and Z. Mm-hmm. All right. First off, you want to see who responds to you while you are there in the public. Okay. If they just sit there and just nod their head, nobody acknowledges what you're saying. Well, guess what? At the ballot box, you don't have to acknowledge them. Mm-hmm. And you can let them know, I was there at that meeting. You did not speak up for me. I am your constituent. All I'm asking for, even if you can't change what I'm asking, acknowledge that you hear me. A lot of times we don't even get that acknowledgement that the community is being heard. And then when things happen, when the community comes to me on my level as a state representative and say, I want you to do this, this, and this, because my local board isn't doing their job. And then the local board looks at me like, why did you do that? Because I heard them and you didn't. That's why.
Yeah.
So do you get a lot of pushback from some of your fellow politicians because from what you're telling us, you listen to the people more than they do. Do you get more pushback because of that?
Oh, I get it all the time. I'll get an elected official call me in the middle of the night. What are you doing? I'm doing your job. That's what I'm doing. Mm. I shouldn't have to do this, because had you done your job to begin with, we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be having this conversation. Oh, well, they complain all the time. That's their right to complain. It is your job to listen. Why did you step up into an elected official's position to that job? It's more than just photo ops. Mm-hmm. If you're not willing to do the job and take the time to connect with the community, then that's not the right job for you. And that's what, and I have this conversation all the time with people who come to me and say, oh, I want to run for office. My first question is why? What is it that you are looking to get out of this? Oh, well, I need a paycheck. Wrong answer. Oh, well, I thought it'd be a good idea to be on the board. Wrong answer. Where's your passion? What are you going to do for the people once you get in that position? It ain't about what you're going to get out of it. It's what are you going to do? And I tell everybody, I took a pay cut to be a state rep. I was making twice my salary. I took a serious pay cut. Yeah, my husband looked at me crazy, like I had lost my mind. Like, excuse me, can you run that by me again? You finna do what? You're going to take how much? Right. But the passion is what leads you to be there. The passion is what helps you to do your job effectively. And if you don't have that passion, you shouldn't be there. Or if you get to a point to where you don't feel that you can be effective, you shouldn't be there. If you're just there to wave during election time and kiss a baby, wrong answer. You're in the wrong position.
Do you feel that there's a higher number of politicians that are in that category where they're just, once they got to meet the public, they're all hurrah, hurrah, but behind closed doors it's more of a selfish reason as to why they got into politics?
I think it's a 50-50. I've met some individuals, who I just truly do not understand, not only how they got in office, but how they stay in office. I'm like, you don't do anything. We never see you in the community. Only time we see you is election time. And it's because we have a lot of apathy in our voters. They're like, oh, well, nothing's going to change. Well, if you're not voting those individuals out who are not representing you, well, no, you're never going to see a change. You have to exercise your right. You have a voice. And there have been so many elections that have been settled with just a small number of votes. We've seen 1 point difference. We've seen 10 vote differences that could have really changed the dynamic of those communities.
Now, before we went to that question, we'll stay on that. How do politicians hold other politicians accountable?
All you can do is call them. That's all you can do. Well, I take that back. You can call them and you can stand up with the community. When you see the community out there marching, when you see the community, out there on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and they're saying, this is happening to me and nobody is responding. You can be the one to respond and say, you know what, I'll stand up with you. That's how you can do that. That's how you can hold because when they see that you're willing to stand with the community, it makes them act. Then it's like, oh God, I got to do my job. Here she go again. And I hear that all the time. Don't you got enough to do? No, I'm here for the people.
Yeah, that's really good. Because I do feel a lot of people, especially with the point you were just talking about, how to really make change, you have to go out and vote and how everyone has a voice. I think a lot of people choose not to vote almost because they feel like it doesn't matter because of the many politicians who have been in office and all different, levels, whether that's the president all the way down to the school board. I've had conversations and I've also thought these things myself sometimes of where, it doesn't matter who is in office. It's not helping me at all. My life isn't changing at all. And, sometimes it does feel like it doesn't matter who I really vote for because all I see a lot. And again, this is more on a higher level because politics are just pushed, and especially recently, they've just been pushed in our faces, almost every day of, just carelessness and selfishness when it comes to certain politicians and how they just kind of handle themselves and almost act like they're for the people and they understand when they truly really don't have any idea. And so they just do the bare minimum for us instead of actually trying to help and improve our lives and just make living easier in a sense.
Right. But you can't be apathetic. You can't have that my vote won't make a difference attitude, or the person that I was rooting for didn't get in, so I'm going to give up. You can't do that. And if you look at the structure of some of these boards, 4 votes make a difference. You want to see who those individuals are that are voting in your favor and who are those individuals who are not voting in your favor. You want to run candidates, number one, who are qualified. Okay. That's part of the problem. We have a lot of people that step up, but they don't even understand the process. If you've never been to a meeting, how do you understand the process? You're just out here, you're grandstanding. Then once you get in the position, you don't know what you're doing. And you just did, you're just as bad as the person that you just helped get out. So that doesn't help. You have to know what it is that you are running for. We got a lot of good people out here who really could make a difference, but they're not always the ones who get the vote. Do you participate in the candidate forums? Ask your questions at those candidate forums. Target those individuals who are currently in office. I came to you and I asked you for help on this issue. What did you do? Did they respond to you? Did they, reply to your email? Did they return your phone call? Did they even acknowledge that you had a concern? Because if they didn't, why would you vote for that person again?
And when all of that, and I think those are all good ideas, but when all those things fail, when you're showing up to meetings, when you're sending emails, when you're calling offices, and sometimes this change doesn't happen, that's when we the people begin to feel hopeless, and that's when we feel
No,
like
that's when you, the people, need to organize. That's when you, the people, our young millennials have so much power. You have a voice. You can truly make a difference. You're our future generation. You are our future. And if you're not out there demanding change, then who else will? We're in the world of social media right now. What you're doing, through this particular broadcast, everybody's got a video phone. We have a lot of different individuals that have different podcast shows. Are you highlighting these individuals who are not standing up? Because if you're not, then how are you helping? How, you have to be part of that change. You can't just say, oh, well, they didn't get in, or the person I wanted, or they're not changing. You have to help force them out. You have to keep calling them out on what it is they're not doing, because eventually somebody gonna pay attention. Dang, every time I pick up Facebook, they calling this person out. Maybe that ain't the person I should vote for. Particularly when you're dealing with the non-millennials, when you're dealing with that 40 up crowd, who just, I'm gonna vote for them because they always been in office. No. How do you reach that person? Because it's not so much the under 40, it's at 50s, those 60s, those senior citizens. How do you reach a senior citizen? You have to change the game. You have to bring the message to them.
I definitely agree with what you're saying. We've had conversations on the podcast before, especially with this past summer with the Black Lives Matter movement, which we in Chicago, we went to one of the protests, and we've talked about how sometimes we feel as almost if the government and also whether it's like the businesses around and even the police force kind of just wait for us to tire out so then everything can go back to normal, if that makes sense, which could be very...
Absolutely. Look how many, we've been marching since the 60s.
Exactly.
We have been every time somebody died, every time somebody gets shot, we march. But what was different this time? What was the difference this time? In that 8 minutes and 46 seconds, they couldn't say that he was armed, because he wasn't. They couldn't say that he was running from the police, because he wasn't. What we had was 8 minutes and 46 seconds of stunned silence across the world. That, when he called out for his mama, do you know how many, and I say this proudly, how many white women stepped up and said, no more, we're not going to take this anymore, and locked arms? When we went out there and we marched this time, it wasn't just us marching. You had Black, white, Latinx, you had entire communities down in Southern Illinois where it ain't hardly any of us. They came out and marched for Black Lives Matter, because what they saw on that TV show, on that television for that 8 minutes, oh my God, they were shocked. Because before they were always able to say, to excuse it away. The police could not excuse what had happened in this one incident because there was no excuse.
That is very true. I do feel as though you are 100% right in that everyone's able to record and has cameras and instantly post these things on the social media. But at the same time, recordings have been around of situations like this. We can think of the Rodney King riots and stuff like that. I mean, we saw the video, of just them beating him mercilessly while he's defenseless,
Absolutely,
Oh no, he resisted. They said he resisted.
Oh, okay, well,
right.
Still, and then even in the 60s, I mean, obviously it wasn't as instant of a post, but there's still video of it. So when we feel like as though even there's clear evidence of it. I mean, this has gone on throughout history, and there's been just little to no change. We feel like just for us as a community. Do you feel as though sometimes there needs to be more than just us getting together? And I know a lot of people were, and I'm not saying that I'm for the violence or riots and stuff like that, but is it understandable the frustration and anger that the community would feel when it seems like it just keeps happening over and over and over again?
I understand frustration, I understand anger, but tearing up where you live doesn't help anything or anybody.
Yeah.
To tear down a business from a small business owner, who's out here struggling just like we are. That doesn't help anything or anybody. It doesn't positively affect change. The only way you're going to do that is through policy, through getting those individuals together, through continuing the conversation. And they're right, for years, we would march, we would scream, we would cry, we would pray, let's all hold hands and pray. And then everybody would go home and nothing changed. Why? Because they didn't go to those town hall meetings. They didn't go to the city council week after week after week. Oh no, I got to cook dinner tonight. No, you need to be at the city council meeting. If we don't continue to show up in numbers, if we don't continue to keep our issues at the forefront, then yeah, it is a waiting game. They're hoping to tire you out. But if they cannot tire you out, they will make a difference. Your voice will make a difference. There will be change. But they're waiting to see how serious are you about these changes? Do you really want them? Like what we did with the school board, we stalked those school board meetings. Now, could we attend every single meeting? Nope, but we would rotate. I'm going to hit, the first two, Sarah, I need you to be at the next two. And then we kept that communication going, but our message remained consistent on what it was that we were asking for. And that's how you get it. You have to build that coalition. You have to get involved, and you cannot give up. You absolutely cannot give up.
You're very right on that, where it just takes persistence and consistency and just showing them that we're not going to leave. My question is, why does it need to take that much just to get these politicians to change? Because if it's obvious to us and we're seeing it, we're experiencing it, and I would imagine some politicians in their younger lives have experienced the same thing and possibly still do, depending on where they're at. Why do we need to be so aggressive and wild and angry just for it seemingly obvious decisions to be made that would help a lot of people out? Why is it taking so much?
You don't have to be angry. You don't have to be wild or crazy. You just have to be consistent. And change is hard. It doesn't matter what you're changing. If you work in corporate America and they tell you, that you can no longer use printer A, you got to walk down the hall to use printer B, folks gonna complain because I am so used to using printer A right here, not understanding that printer B has 5 times the capacity and can do a lot more than printer A. It's just change. Every human is resistant to change.
That is very true.
What were your conceptions about politicians before you came one?
I don't know if I really had, I had good experiences with a lot of them. I come from a single mom, and I know that when my father passed away, my mom had 3 kids. She didn't know where, she had no skill set. She was a housewife. Where do I go to get a job? She went to the mayor's office. The mayor said, here, go down the street to this company. He had a letter for her. She took it down there. They gave her a job. So, that was the first Mayor Savanjan. I just want to give him a shout out because he helped my mom to get a job so that she could provide for her 3 kids. So there are good aspects, from politicians. There are also some lazy politicians out there.
Definitely some lazy politicians.
Now, how can the relationship between the people and the politicians improve? And how do you think it can?
Communication. You got to communicate with them. If you're not, you can't, and I know this sounds crazy to say that you can't expect them to come to you, but in a lot of cases, the ones who aren't out there, they're not coming to you. So if they're not coming to you, you have to go to them. You have to make your voice heard. You have to let them know, hey, we're not going to continue, to let you do whatever it is that you're doing because we don't see you. We're going to hold you accountable. And you have to use those words. We're going to hold you accountable. We're watching you. We're letting you know what our issues are. How can you help us? And that doesn't mean that you're going to get everything that you're asking for, but can you get something? Can they move the needle just a little bit to help make life that much better? If you're out there marching and it's a just cause, how come they can't go march with you? How come they can't just come out and just, hey, if they don't want to hold a sign, just come out and show support, give you that moral support to say, I see you, I hear you, and I stand with you. Is that too much to ask?
No, no, not at all. But then it's also getting that needle to move, and it's getting them to come out there. The transparency, the sitting down for impromptu podcasts, a few weeks ahead of time in a hoodie,
Yeah.
stuff like this where it's like, like it's stuff like that. Not just seeing them on TV or at a town hall meeting where you'll ask a question and then they're like, oh okay, and then you go sit back down and stuff like that. I feel like the relationship can improve just with transparency, communication, like you said, but just going out and like seeing it, talking to somebody. Like, I don't know have you ever worked at a job for like a really big company, right? And you work for a huge company, say like let's use like a Baxter, for example, right? Odds are, or McDonald's, right? Huge corporation. Yeah. You're probably never going to be the CEO of McDonald's ever, right? Yeah. But because of that, it makes you not care as much. But when you're working for a smaller company, you actually get to meet, interact with the people who are making these decisions. It makes a lot more, So in the future, do you see politicians reaching out and talking to people, or do you still think it's going to be more of the same, where it's kind of just, I see you in press conferences, some people show up, some people don't care.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you...
It's situational. You have some individuals who will always reach out, and you will have some who never will because they don't feel they have to, because they just know that people are just going to keep voting for them. So they're like, no, I don't need to do anything. I don't need to make any extra effort. And the only time you see them make that effort is when you have somebody viable that's running against them, and now they want to step up all of a sudden. But where were you at all the other times?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, do you want to go?
I was just gonna say, obviously, when it comes to what you were saying, a lot of times we only see bigger, I guess, levels politicians, on TVs giving speeches and stuff like that. And obviously, a lot of the times they're written form or they have some type of say. How do we know that when we are talking to these politicians and confronting them, we're talking to them and not just written down answers like, oh, okay, well, if they say this, I'm going to say this. And how do we know that we're actually getting through and we're actually meeting the real person who actually cares instead of just the politician who's trying to keep a job?
That's a great question.
That's quite simple. Are they walking the talk? It comes down to that. Anybody can talk. Anybody can make you a promise, but do they follow through?
Mm-hmm. And I know the information's out there. I'd imagine it's somewhat easy to get, but like when it comes to just seeing how they're voting and, trying to hold them accountable and and maybe even understanding why these votes were made the way they were, what information was in certain bills, this and that, where would we be able to find that stuff? Because I feel like a lot of the time, it's almost made to be somewhat difficult to understand from someone who's not in that life already. Yeah. So even if I was able to read it, I'd be like, well, I don't even know what this is or how that's affecting me. Like how deep into the information and research does a normal person have to do to just be
understand what's going on?
Understand what's going on exactly. Because sometimes I feel like it's different language.
Just in this past 30 minutes, you've used terms I've never heard of before. So, and I'm not knocking you for it because, that's the way you've learned it. And, I'm not upset about that, but I get what you're saying because for people to care, they have to understand what's going on. Mm-hmm. And some of it, people like which I think it's a balance of both. Some people have to make the effort to go be like, all right, I'm going to go learn about this. And then some people just don't care. Well, the people who do make the effort, they get there and they're like, okay, some people hear certain words like maybe jargon or they hear a negative story or something like that. And that makes them want to quit. So how can the people or the politicians or both bridge that gap so the people who do want to try and do want to care get into it? Is that what you're kind of saying?
Yeah, because the example I was thinking of was with the stimulus bills and everything that's been going on. Yeah. And for the majority of Americans, I'd imagine they just want their $1,400. They just want, that's what they care about. Right, exactly. But within that bill and just thinking from us, it's like, oh, this should just be like, okay, boom, here you go. But then we realize it's getting denied and people aren't voting for it because there's so much other stuff stuffed in there. And then when you try to read to see what's in it, you're just like,
it's almost
what
like
is
no
this?
One knows what's going
Why are
on.
they getting money? Why are these people getting money? Why is that corporation getting money? Why are they, what I mean? It's just like at the end of the day, I thought this was for us, but then you look at the document and it's 300 pages long. And then it's just like, how is it really expected for a regular person to sit down and then just go through it? And, like, is that what they expect.
That's an unrealistic expectation for anyone to sit down and go through it. Okay, so now the omnibus bill that's coming through the federal government. I'm a state representative. Everybody has federal representatives that are called congressmen.
Right.
So your congressman or your or your federal senator should have put out some type of information that says, this is what's in the bill. You know, just break it down to in layman's terms, and that means to the very basic, you know, 5th grade level. The bill does A, B, C, and D. These are the, this is who's getting money, and this is why they're getting the money. There's just basic bullet points. Whenever we do a budget bill, all legislators are giving bullet points because our budget bills are 600 some pages, okay? And a lot of times we don't understand, why did you give money over here? And we have to question that too, which is why we get those bullet points. It says, okay, these are all of the entities that we are giving money. We get what's called an analysis. It's a breakdown of that bill, and it explains each of those line items that are going to affect. And then we also can ask for one step further. How does this specifically affect my district? You know, is it going to be a positive impact? Is it going to be a negative impact? And I'll use an example. The governor was pushing this bill to decouple from the federal government. I had no clue what the heck decoupling from the federal government meant. Mm-hmm. So I asked a question. They're like, oh, well, this is just, you know, for businesses that make a lot of money. You know, there's a 5-year look back on their federal taxes. 5-year look back. I still don't know what you're talking about. You know, there's oh, well, don't worry. This will only affect a few businesses in your district. Okay, which businesses? Oh, well, we can't tell you that. Excuse me? You want me to vote for a bill that is going to affect businesses in my district, but you won't tell me which businesses? Oh, no, just trust us. No, wrong answer.
Why wouldn't they tell you?
Because they didn't want, because they knew had they told us which businesses specifically, we wouldn't vote for the bill. So, but guess what? I'm still not going to vote for the bill because I need to know who you are negatively affecting. But see, these are some of the games that are played on the higher level. But unless, you know, the individual who represents you is asking the questions, you know, they'll never know. Because a lot of times people say, well, why didn't you vote for this bill? And I'll be like, because I read it, you know, and they're like, oh, well, what was in the bill? And then when you tell them, like, you know, you mentioned this omnibus bill, you know, and how you had all these little things hidden in there. Sometimes there are things hidden in these bills that can negatively affect you. You know, we passed this huge capital bill. It was a great bill. We were going to build all this stuff. But at the same time, we was going to raise gas taxes. We was going to raise this. I'm like, I can't afford my gas already. I'm a regular person. You know, I don't have $1 million like some of these other people. You know, I pay a lot of money in my gas. I pay a lot for this. And then to ask my constituents, the people that I represent, you know, these are backdoor tax increase. I'm like, I can't vote for that.
Right. So you were saying how there should be almost a dumbed down version of what's in the bill and everything. Absolutely. Where would that be accessible, or do we have to go out and ask, like, hey, what was in that? Or is there should it be on a state website, just like, oh, this is where that's at, just so people know where to look?
The information is out there. So if you go like on the county level, you can go right on the county board and you can see all of their past meetings. You'll have minutes from those meetings that kind of breaks down what was discussed. If there's still a question after you read those meetings, then you can reach out to your individual county board member, or there's like a board secretary who you can email your question to and they will respond to you. Okay. Same thing for the on the city level. You know, all of the minutes are posted. If you have a question on anything that happened in the city, you know, this ordinance was passed, I don't understand, can you give me a little bit more? You can information, you can reach out to your alderman, their email is listed, or you can reach out to the city clerk, their email is listed. On the state level, we have an entire website, the ilga.gov, the Illinois General Assembly, that's what ILGA, Illinois General Assembly.gov. You can research members, you can search individual bills that each member put in. And then if you click on the bill, it'll give you a synopsis of the bill, which is just a blurb that tells you what the bill does. Or you can hit full text and read the entire statute, depending on, you know, your level of how much information you really want. Most people just need the synopsis that says, okay, this bill does A. And then you kind of have an idea. And then if you want to know why, the representative, either voted for or against that bill, then you can ask them. 9 times out of 10, if a representative voted against the bill, it's because there was an amendment added to that bill that made it a bad bill.
Right. And last question about this topic, I guess. Do you feel that it's almost made difficult to understand to kind of get people to lose interest in what's happening? You know what I'm saying? So, because like if you're reading it and you're like, I just have no idea what this even means. What's the point of me even reading this? Do you think that it's almost made that way?
No, I really don't think so, especially now with the age of the internet. All this information is out there. There is so much information out there, and we're constantly putting it out there with the hope of engaging individuals, with the hope that you're going to ask questions. You can pretty much Google, if you just type in a bill number, if there's anybody that's against that bill number, you're going to get all that information out there. If there are people that are for it, because agencies are promoting these bills, agencies are advocating against the bill. So they'll be happy to break that down for you even further. And you can reach out not just to us, but to those agencies as well that are either supporting or opposing a bill. So there are just so many different ways to get involved, but you do have to make the effort to get involved. You have to make the effort to understand. There's only, I try to put out as much information as possible. I know my colleagues do too, but do we cover every single bill that we do? No, we don't. We cover those that we feel will have the most impact on our district, or the ones that people are asking for.
Okay.
Gotcha. Now, switching back, my last question about the relationship between the two. You have, sorry, we're not texting, I promise.
We're looking at notes.
It's okay.
Sorry.
Feel free.
If you had a pinpoint between what damaged the relationship between the two, between the public and the people, what do you think damaged it?
False promises.
Yeah.
I think that is where you get a lot of the apathy. You have individuals, and I've talked to so many people, I came out, I worked on this person's campaign. They said they were going to do this, this, and this. I really believed in them. I made phone calls. I knocked on doors, and then they got in office, and now I can't even get a phone call, or that they won't acknowledge me, or they won't do half of what they said they were going to do. That is where the problems come in. And that's why I talk about walking the talk, because you got individuals that'll promise you the moon. You have individuals who are currently in office, and then you have those who want that office. So the one that's wanting the office, their primary, and you see this all the time with all these negative flyers and mailers, they want to tear down the person that's there, but at the same time, they're not really talking about what they're going to do. Or they're going to make promises, not understanding what those promises entail. And then when they get in the office, they can't keep those promises because they didn't know what they was talking about to begin with.
Yeah, that I've been saying that from the jump, just lies. And, it's not even just recently. I mean, this has been going on for years in all levels of elections, I feel like, at least in my lifetime. So with that being said, how are we supposed to trust? Okay, so this politician didn't keep his promise or her promise. So and this next one that I elect will, it's whether that's the same party, different party, because all parties have said things, have lied about it. So how is it more so just kind of like a blind trust? Like, I hope they keep their promises, and obviously you can look back and see how they voted, this and that. But I mean, sometimes I feel like it really doesn't matter who is in office. They're just saying what's going to get them that vote.
It does matter. It does matter. You do want to look back on their votes, and I wouldn't say just hold one vote against somebody, because not everybody is going to agree with you 100% of the time. Right. Not everybody is going to vote the way you want 100% of the time. But if 90% of what they did, the person who's currently in office, if they did 90% of what you asked them to do, then that person did their job. Okay.
Yeah.
For the person that's wanting the job, obviously you can make every, promise in the world, but what have they done before they stepped up? You always want to look at what have they done, because you have these, I call them overnight politicians. You don't never see them. You've never heard of them until it's time to pass out a petition. And now they're going to do everything in the world. Wait a minute. You've been living here. this entire time. You haven't gone to one meeting. You haven't stood at one rally. You haven't done anything. And now you're making all these promises about what you're going to do. I'm looking at, but you haven't done anything. And don't say that because you didn't have a title, you couldn't make a difference, because we got people out here every day without titles that are making a difference. You don't need a title to stand out. You don't need a title to stand up. So that's what I would say, look at. If you haven't seen them before petition time, I don't know if you can really trust them.
Oh, go ahead, bro.
No, are you gonna say something?
Yeah, it's just, and it's like he was saying, it's just like a blind faith thing. Because as much as it's, voting for it and voting, it's almost like you lose faith in it when you hear about people in power misusing their power. Mm-hmm. And we're not saying that what you're saying is ineffective. We're trying to dismiss it, because you're making very valid points, and these are things should change. We ourselves are advocates for voting and making the right thing happen and all those kind of things. But it's just, and I guess in a way we're looking for 100% assurance on certain.
You're never going to get it.
And I think that's where we're wrong at.
You don't have 100% assurance in a marriage or any relationship. So you're never going to get 100%. That's why I said if you get 90, you are doing really good. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm sure you both may have had a girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever in the past. You didn't agree 100% of the time.
Yeah.
Correct? So you cannot expect to have that with a public relationship either. But 90%, you can ask for 90%. And if there's an elected official out there that is just not, why don't either of you could run? Step up, take charge. Say, you know what? And you got a valid point. You can say, I am running because this is why I'm running. Mm-hmm. You are our future.
Do you feel, because I know you were just saying when it comes to election time, look at their past, even if they weren't politicians before, look at what they've done. Do you feel that you have to be a former politician to be good, to do a good job? Because past election, Trump wasn't a politician before. He
wasn't even a good person.
Yeah, I'm not trying to get into that conversation right now, but and then we've had various other people run for various positions that were businessmen before, were lawyers before, were doctors before. So what kind of experience do you think would aid in being able to kind of be a good politician? Or does it?
You don't need experience. My background has nothing to do with what I'm doing now. I work with individuals with severe disabilities, which really took me off from my degree. I have an MBA. So, what I did has absolutely nothing to do with what I'm doing. I work, some of my fellow representatives, one is a mother. She's never held a job. She's always been a mother, but she was concerned about her community. So it's not that you have to have a particular background. What you have to have is passion. You have to care about what's going on, and you have to be willing to stand up and stand out. Even if you're the only one standing, you need to have your voice heard. And if that person has never, gone to a meeting, if you've never, you can go back through all their different Facebook posts. And if you go back a year's worth of posts and you've never seen this person stand up for anything or anybody, they're probably not going to stand up for you.
Right. How have you changed since your political journey? You're speaking on passion and what got you started. How have you changed as a person from before you started up until this point now?
Well, I got a lot more gray hair. Gained a little bit of weight. Oh, that's not what you meant? Okay. Actually, I don't know if I think I've gotten better, because when I first started doing this back on the school board, I was out, but, and I would speak out on certain things. Now I speak out on everything, and I try to go to as much as I possibly can and be involved, not with just what a state rep that matters to a state representative, but to the entire community, because I live here and I want my whole community to be good. So whether, I had the title of a school board member or a state rep, or, if I was just a homemaker, working a regular job, it still would not stop me from helping my community and being out there, because that's just who I am. But some people just don't have that. And you got individuals who you see that are out here making a difference. Even during COVID, I have individuals that I know who personally, they stepped up. They went grocery shopping for seniors. They were doing like homework help in their kitchens, for the different kids that were at home. They stepped up. They was babysitting. They was doing all kind of stuff. You don't have to have a particular background. You just need to care and be willing to help somebody other than yourself.
Mm. I think that's big of it a big part of it, but I also feel that some people they take for granted the sacrifice. We're always, nitpicking people in power, politicians, but there is a level of sacrifice that comes with it. Have you got to give up a lot?
It's a huge level because, if we were not working from home during COVID, from January through June, I'm not at home. I come home, I'm in Springfield every single week. I come home on the weekends. I have a teenage daughter who I would only see 2 days out of the week. Right. I have a husband who I'm like, hey, get yourself a girlfriend. I'll see you in 6 months. I'm serious because it's a huge sacrifice. It is. And they don't realize how much time, and even when you're here, even on those weekends that you're home, you're not really home because you're dealing with stuff from the district. You're making sure that the people in the community know what you did while you were out in Springfield and how you're still working to help them on the issues that are important to them as well. So it's a huge sacrifice.
How is that strain really hard on your family?
No, actually, I was smart. I moved my mama in the house. Just in case he took me up on the girlfriend thing. She told me, right? I didn't mean it, honey. I didn't mean it. But and having a teenage daughter, it wasn't always easy for her. But just being able to text her, call her, send her a text, hey, I'm alive, because you know how hard it is to communicate with a teenager. But just letting them know that you're still there for them as well.
Yeah.
Now, when you go down to Springfield, what exactly are you doing for those who don't?
Committee meetings. You do committee meetings. You're meeting with lobbyists. You're meeting with community organizations, to either discuss or promote different bills that they care about. It might be something that you're presenting. It could be something that another rep, is presenting. And you're down there, and our days run long in Springfield. And that's what they don't understand. Your first committee is at 8:00 in the morning. And if you serve on the appropriation committees like I do, you're not getting home to 8:00 at night. So you're putting in pretty much 12-hour days, scrounging for snacks because you're hungry. And they took out all the vending machines, So that's pretty much it. It's a lot of meetings. It's a lot of work. You're writing your speeches for when you get ready to present your bills. You want to make sure you have all the facts, because if you don't, your fellow representatives are going to eat you alive. A lot of them are lawyers. They know the law front, back, and sideways. I'm not an attorney. I don't pretend I'm an attorney, but I know what it is that I want to do and how it's going to affect the individuals in my district. And let me give you a real good example, because there's a bill that I just passed out of committee. If you owe back child support, let's say you lost your job and you owe back child support, they're charging you 9% interest on that back child support, 9%, and you don't even have a job. I'm not talking about these really wealthy people. I'm talking about the average person, who's out here, working for $15, maybe even $20 or less. So, you're not living high on the hog. You're not living their life O'Reilly. You're barely making it. You lost your job during COVID. We're going to charge you 9% interest because you owe $2,000, $3,000, whatever that dollar amount is. That's not fair to you. That is not fair. So the bill that we passed basically takes your income into effect. And if you make, $20 an hour or less, we're not going to charge you no 9% interest, because you can't afford to pay that. Now, if you make $100,000 or more and you're not paying your child support, well, there's something wrong there. Yeah. Now you got a problem. That person needs to be charged whatever you can to make them pay. But for the individuals who are out here working on a regular job, struggling, I don't feel we should penalize them. Just like when we tried to take their driver's license, how are they going to get to work? You want to take their driver's license because they didn't pay child support, so now they can't go to work. Or you want to lock them up because they didn't pay child support. Well, guess what? If they're locked up, they still can't pay child support. some of these things just don't make sense.
Yeah, the system is very counterproductive at times.
Very
And it's very defeating of the people, especially those, because it feels like if you're not rich, you're not doing well. And it's
Right.
not. And so a lot of those counterproductive laws often frustrate people a lot. And they really just makes them, again, how we talked earlier, lose faith in the system and government and things
Right.
like that. So I think that's actually a really nice bill, because I do know someone, I don't know him that well, but I do know someone who actually went to jail for not paying child support. I don't know it was an entire situation, but child support is definitely not something to play with at all.
Right. And we're not saying that you shouldn't pay your child support, but when you take away an individual's opportunity to work a job, to pay whatever it is that they owe, you're
Yeah.
defeating the purpose.
Do you feel like
It's
sometimes,
counterproductive.
oh, I'm sorry. Do you feel like sometimes the laws and bills that are passed, not yours per se, take out like the human factor of it? That laws don't count in factor that people are human and that stuff just happens?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You want to hear about my 3 strikes bill? I'm trying to get rid of that 3 strikes law. We got people serving life sentences that didn't kill nobody simply because they had a drug problem, and they out here doing, you had 3 felony thefts. Let's say, and by felony theft, that means that you stole something over $300. So this time, you stole an air conditioner.
Here in the
The
state
next-
of Illinois or national?
In the state of Illinois. So let's say you stole 3 air conditioners, you're going to jail for life. You didn't kill nobody. You were stealing stuff, dumb stuff, to feed your habit. And most of these individuals, if you look at their rap sheets, you knew they had a drug problem. These individuals should have been put in drug programs,
Yeah.
Not given a life sentence. That costed taxpayers, and you're basically throwing lives away. And when you look at the number of those individuals, they're all Black and brown.
Yeah.
Now, do you think that it's a deeper level than just these, not seeing the human side of life, but more so there are certain people that are making a point to have it as, bogus as possible for their benefits?
Well, they want to be tough. They want to be seen as being tough on crime without any regard to what that really means. If somebody rapes, murders, or kills, absolutely, they need to be put in jail. But we're talking about these low-level offenders who they don't even, we just passed this bond package for. So if you do something stupid, you run a stoplight, whatever, you get a DUI, do you really need to spend, 60, 90, 120 days in jail, lose your job, lose your family, lose everything just because you didn't have the money to bond yourself out?
Well, no.
You should
not,
but
I don't think you should, but
Well, that's why, the Black Caucus passed that bill. But we're going to reform bond because it should not be, it should be your, whether or not that person can be safely released back into the community. Are they a threat? That's what we should be evaluating, not whether or not they got money in the bank.
yeah, because one thing has always confused me, and this has come from like just watching crime shows and just like pay attention to the news. You got someone who will go to jail for like double murder or something, or like shooting somebody, like, oh yeah, they bonded out.
And they bonded out.
Yeah.
Right. Well, yeah. But then you have Peanut, who had a dime bag, it's legal now, but before when it wasn't, and he's doing 60 days in jail. He'll take a plea just to get out, even though it was something he probably could have beat.
yeah.
It puts paper on people who we probably shouldn't have paper on.
Yeah.
That's a show for another day. I'm happy to have these conversations with you.
We can talk about that all day.
All day long.
All day long, yes.
Now you brought up a few bills that you're working on right now and one that you passed. Now, okay, I have a question. The terminology thing again. When you say you a bill you passed off or you passed on?
Right. So the bill process, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Schoolhouse Rock. I'm just a bill sitting here on Capitol Hill. That's pretty much the process. I know, right? I love that. So you have a bill is just a suggestion. And most of my bills come from my constituents. Okay. So I'm going to walk you through the ban the box bill because that one is actually a law. I had a constituent who, I'm going to explain that to you. I had a constituent who came to me and he said, Rep, I can't get a job. Every time I go apply, there's this question on the application. Have you ever been convicted? Rep, I've been convicted a few times, but I still want to work. I still deserve a job. So I took his idea, we drafted it up into what is called a bill, okay? The bill goes to committee, and then it is argued on both sides. And when I tell you that the arguing was fierce, the state's attorneys came out and said, absolutely not. We want to leave that question on there. The businesses came out, absolutely not. We need to know if we have convicts. I'm like, okay, but what about if what they got convicted of has nothing to do with the job? We don't care. We just want to know. Why? Why do you need to know? No, you want to discriminate, because we all know that as soon as you check that box, that application goes in the garbage can. So through a lot of negotiation, and that bill took 3 years to pass, 3 years of arguing back and forth. Yes, something that we would consider common sense. It took 3 years, got it through the House, sent it over to the Senate. They had to start the whole process over, arguing back and forth, got it through the Senate, went to the governor's desk, got signed into law. So currently what that says is that if you see that question on an application, you do not have to answer it. Actually, they were supposed to remove it from the application. We know that some companies did not. You can report them to the Department of Labor. They will be fined. But you do not have to answer that question. Have you ever been convicted of a felony? Have you ever been arrested? You do not have to answer that on a job application. 9 times out of 10, it is not germane to the job that you are applying for. The only exception to that question is if you are applying for a law enforcement position. Because, you kind of want to know if you're hiring a felon, to be a police officer.
A position like that, absolutely.
Yeah.
So that took 3 years. That's crazy. That's why it feels like some things take forever to get going. And it's always like, oh, well, what are the politicians doing? Why are we still waiting for this? Why can't this just happen?
Right. Well, that's because we have lobbyists. Lobbyists are individuals who make 3 times the amount of a representative. Most lobbyists make, between 5,000 to 10,000 a month. Okay. I got into the wrong. I didn't know about lobbyists until I became a representative. Okay. And they have one job, and their job is to kill your bill so that, because it's not within their interest or the interest of the company that hired them. So they represent companies. And those companies either say yay or nay on your bill, and that lobbyist will pull out all the stops to kill your bill.
Now, is that where the tie between money and politics kind of comes hand in hand, to where they conflict, to where everyone says money influences politics, which, money does influence things, good and bad, but is that where a point where it's like a bad thing because these companies who are paying a lot of money because they go golfing together, they're buddies.
I mean, they got so much money they can throw into, into it.
But that's also where integrity comes in. Yeah. Because, I know when you become a rep, you get checks from everybody, and like I always tell them, oh, you can send me money. It doesn't guarantee you I'm going to vote the way that you want them to vote. And what they'll do eventually is they'll trickle off, and then they'll stop sending you money because you're not voting in their interest.
So almost
but they do send you money. They will absolutely send you money in hopes that you will vote with them. Or, they always want to take you out. I call them the chicken dinners. I can buy my own chicken dinner. I'm fine. I can fry my own chicken. But they do. They want to wine you. They want to dine you. Hey, rep, I got this bill. It does X, Y, and Z. And then, okay, well, who's opposed to your bill and why? Oh, well, rep, it's like this. I just need, no. How does this bill help my people? How's this going to serve my community? Well, it really don't. We're going to raise, no. You're going to do what? You're going to raise some fees. Wrong answer. But if you don't have somebody in office that has that level of integrity, because you do have some individuals, and we've seen this because a lot of them have gone to jail, who will accept that check, and then vote counterproductive to their districts, but they end up getting caught up sooner or later.
Because that's bribery, and that's highly illegal.
That's bribery. It's pay for play. It's against the law. It is totally against the law. And that's why you have to be willing to stand up and say, no, absolutely not. Don't hand me a check and then mention a bill. Because to me, you're trying to get me to, you're trying to pay me for my vote, and I won't accept it. And I've turned down checks. I've sent back checks. If you send me a check that has something in that memo line to do with a bill, I'll send it back to you. I'm sorry. No, you can send me a check because you think I'm pretty, but don't send me a check, to lobby a bill, because that's integrity, and we can't do that. No.
Does that happen? Do you see your fellow politicians accepting those bribes more than you thought you would? I feel like, because I feel as citizens, we feel like politics as a whole is it's just extremely corrupt all over the world, not just here. I mean, this is
at every level.
At every level, for for history, you know, so is it surprising the amount that kind of just goes on and how much you kind of have to like fight it in a sense?
I think it kind of weeds itself out. Lobbyists learn, pretty much within their, your first 3 months where you stand. Because, a lot of it has to do with your personality and the conversations that you have with them. If you are being professional, they're going to treat you professional. They'll, if you being shady, and we all know those type of individuals, and they've been down there long enough. A lot of these lobbyists have been down there, 10, 20 years. So they know who's on the up and up and who's not. They know who they can slide $1 to and who they can't.
Is there no term for lobbyists? Like a
No.
term limit?
No.
That's a long time. That's crazy.
Yeah. You have career. I mean, come on now. You're making $10,000 a month. You finna get that up?
Nah, but
No, you're gonna assert yourself. You finna make some friends.
They should be forced to give it up. Like how certain positions have terms, that should have a term too. Because why would I want some older person? And no disrespect, I'm not trying ageism or anything, but like someone who's making laws for us at 24 and 25, who could be 60 and 70, deciding laws that could work for us.
No, because it's a job just like anything else. That's just like if you go work for Baxter's, we can't term limit your work at Baxter to say you can only work for them for X number of years. This is a legitimate job. But what we have done in the legislature is we have put some ethics reform into place. So you can't move from being a state rep to a lobbyist. There's a 2-year gap that you have to wait before you can do that. That didn't used to be there. You could go, be a rep today and then a lobbyist tomorrow, for the same company that you were passing bills for. So they changed that. You can't do that anymore. You have to put those levels in there. You cannot, for those representatives who are lawyers, you cannot represent any company, that you're passing bills for, voting on bills for, because that's a conflict of interest. It's an ethical, issue there. So we had to put those things in place because we did have some problems in the past. And I would like to say, we've done better. We've definitely been doing better as far as, addressing these ethical issues, but there's still stuff that pops up constantly, with some of our reps, and not all of them have to do with finances. We had a state rep who was a pedophile. You just don't know who you're sitting next to.
He got elected after his pedophile conviction?
Oh, no. He was a pedophile while he was elected.
Oh,
Talking about he didn't like, he liked them young, 2 to 3 years old. Right. That's just disgusting. It was disgusting.
That's sickening. And
it is.
I'm glad you brought that up because it's like, it just goes to show you that people, no matter what position they're in or how much money they make, people are going to be people, flawed and not. Not trying to excuse that person, whoever that is, that's horrible. But it's like, it kind of confirms how everyone feels is that sometimes like, no matter who you think that like someone may be because of their title, excuse my language, I can't think another way to say it, but shit still happens.
Yeah.
Shit still happens. I couldn't think another way. I'm sorry, Ms. May.
That's okay. Stuff happens. It does. But, on the state level, we've taken those extra steps to put, different things in place. If you're convicted while you're in office, you can lose your entire pension. So all your money is just gone. So that's something to make you think twice before you do something stupid. We don't have a lot of those ethical things on the local level. A lot of cities don't have ethics commissions. A lot of your counties don't have them. And these are things that definitely need to be put in because you want to have that extra layer of protection just so that because of the apathy, because of, what the constituents feel like, what, some of these politicians, they just are no good. All politicians are, I hear all of that, but it's because we don't have these things in place locally and we need them. We absolutely should have ethics boards on every level of government. Every level needs to have it.
Now, I'm sorry.
No,
now, being a woman in politics, and on top of that, because politicians, I'm assuming, is dominated, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but it's dominated majority by older white men. So being a woman, and then being a woman of color in politics, what's that experience been like for you?
It's been interesting. I am the only, up until recently, I was the only African-American in all of Lake County on the state level. The only one.
Who's
the only one? And it's difficult because they look at my district And because like right now we're getting ready to go through this whole redistricting thing. That's where they redraw the lines. And you can best believe they're trying to figure out how to get rid of the only minority that you got, because I'm bringing issues that they don't want to deal with. They don't want to hear about, recidivism. They don't want to hear about prison reform. They don't want to hear about second chances. These are not things that are important to them. And they tell me all the time, oh, well, my constituents don't care about that. Well, I'm here for mine because my constituents do care, So, we don't want to vote. Well, no, I need you to vote. I need you to stand with me on some of these issues. So it's been really hard in a sense, just trying to not allow myself to become acclimated, because they always want us, to conform. No, it's, but I think I've done a great job. I think I'm doing good as far as handling that. I'm from Waukegan. Waukegan's always been diverse. I can work with anybody and everybody. Doesn't matter if you're Black, white, Latinx, or what. I can work with just about anybody. But it's reaching across to some of these individuals who don't look like me, who have never really had interactions with somebody Black, and I've done that with a lot of my colleagues. When I was passing some of my bills, I took the initiative to go introduce myself, explain my district, explain why I needed their help on these bills. And, just to be told, well, we ain't got none of y'all in our district. Well, what does that have to do with why I'm here today? I'm not asking you about the y'all that you have in your district because you do represent some poor people. I've checked your numbers, and finding those commonalities and explaining to them that not everything is about race. Some things are just about, doing the right thing for the right group of people.
Does that argument seem to come up a lot within your profession, just how it's race-based instead of just what's best for the person?
Yeah, I've had to listen to a few off-color jokes and everything else, but I think that because of my personality, I'll call you out on it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a problem. See, I'm not going to be that person that just smiles, while you make a racist comment. No, I'm going to let you know I did not appreciate what you said, or excuse me, that was offensive to me. Can you, I'm not understanding why you would feel that it was okay to say this in front of me. Oh, Representative, we didn't mean it. Oh, no, yeah, of course you meant it like that, but I just want you to know I'm not the one, because I've seen some of others, who are African-American, who just smile. Oh, girl, they didn't mean, oh, no, they meant it. And as long as you're saying, oh, girl, they didn't mean it, you're okay with it. I'm not going to rubber stamp that type of behavior because all that does is keep us on the back burner. We have to step up. And if we're not willing to step up and speak for ourselves, then how can you expect them to stand with you?
So you're kind of the disruptor in a sense. Like no matter what's kind of going, you're not a disruptor, but you're not someone that's going to let the little stuff slide. You on it every time.
You can't. You absolutely cannot. I went to an all-girls school in Wisconsin. I was the only African-American there. This was in college. And, I've seen it all. I've heard it all. And you have to stand up for yourself. You cannot just allow people to walk over you.
Yeah, I get that, especially about like racial comments and microaggressions. I was on the swim team for 8 years. And so a predominantly white sport, and with us, and at the time we're all like 16, 17-year-old kids, so some really stupid stuff got said. And looking back at it, I'm just like, wow, like that was low-key bogus. Like what happened in his life to make him say that kind of stuff?
Right. And what did he hear at home? Because they repeat. But if you don't let them know, hey, that's offensive to me. Oh, I didn't mean it that way. Well, how did you mean it? And then when you put it back on them, it makes them, okay, first off, they're not going to say it in front of you again, but it also makes them take a step back and think about it. Because I've had some of my colleagues come back and apologize and say, you know what, I'm really sorry. I did not mean to offend you. I never thought of it that way. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm glad you're thinking about it now.
All right, off topic a little bit. You born and raised, you're from Waukegan your entire life, right?
Born and raised, Waukegan West, Raiders. Okay, we are the best.
Raiders.
Huh?
I thought they were always Bulldogs.
No. Before there were Bulldogs, there were Raiders, okay? There were Raiders, the Waukegan Raiders. We are the Raiders, okay? Tried and true, okay?
I never knew that.
The Raiders beat the Bulldogs time and time again in just about everything. It was during Dr. Donaldo Batiste's tenure as superintendent that he came up with the idea to combine the schools. You know, one school, one mascot, one image. But I'm just sorry to say, I will always be a Raider.
Hey,
Okay.
Nothing wrong with that.
nothing wrong with that.
Now, where in Waukegan is your favorite place to eat?
Ooh, I didn't eat everywhere. I don't know if I got a favorite. You know, my taste buds are all over the place.
I order a couple. Just throw a couple.
Give me a
first
list.
ones come in your mind. Just a couple of them.
Okay.
Endorsement.
Yeah, it's not endorsement. Not endorsement.
What's your feeling? It could just be like, what's your feeling today?
Yeah.
Oh God. So let me see.
That's tough because Waukegan is
yeah, I mean, well, we've got everything, you know, from the Taste of Belize if you want oxtails. Oh my, they got the best oxtails in Lake County. Taste of Belize, trust me, you want to eat that. They are so tender. They're just, oh, that is just so good. We got jerk and more. You got to try to jerk with the macaroni and cheese. It'll make you cry. It tastes so good. Let me see. Casa de Samuel, downtown Waukegan, best Mexican food. They have really good Mexican
Really?
food. Yes. Yes.
That's because my favorite is El Pariso off of Washington.
Washington.
The Macquarie, behind the gas station with the white building with the rainbow sign.
Yeah, I've been in there. Casa de Samuel. I'm telling you, because I've tried all of these little ones, you know. Casa de Samuel is just really good. La Canoa, if you want seafood in Waukegan, nobody can beat La Canoa.
Really?
Nobody. I mean, oh my God. They give you shrimps like this big. Wait a minute, you can't see that. Okay, let me do that. They give you shrimps like this big. It's like, oh my God. And not just one or two, you get, you don't leave out of there hungry at all. They have good, I mean, if you want just your typical traditional Mexican platters, they have those too, but I go there for the seafood. It's the best.
You know what's crazy? I didn't realize how easy it actually was to cook seafood till like a month ago. Me and my girlfriend were cooking something. I thought you only had to go buy out to get seafood. I didn't realize how easy it was to cook like crab legs and stuff. Like you literally just
put in
put the bag, and I'm thinking like, I don't want to do that. That seems like a lot of steps. Look at this, look at that. No, that was a way easier I thought.
Yeah. So no, Waukegan has a lot of great places to come and eat. We have a lot of great things just to come and do. You know, we have, I don't know if you guys are into art, but every third Saturday of the month, we do our art walk. And that's where local artists, you know, show off their talents in our downtown area. And you can go through the local businesses and see the various art that's been put up around. And it changes pretty much every month. We have, in the summertime, we do festivals down there. Well, we've got a lot to offer. Waukegan is really a great city. Come to Waukegan.
I spent majority of my childhood in Waukegan. I grew up in Zion, but every weekend I come to my grandma's house. She stood off of Green Bay Road near the Toyota and Kia dealership between Grand and Washington.
Right.
Like I spent a lot of my weekends there, so I've learned to appreciate Waukegan a lot.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Now, next question is, we talked about relationship between the politicians and the media. I'm sorry, and the people, but what's your take on the relationship between politicians and the media?
It's a love-hate relationship. You love them when they're tooting your horn and you hate them when they're not. So
how do you cope with that?
Well, it just depends. I mean, they're there to sell newspapers, and you have to, you know, whether you like it or not, the bottom line is that they're there to sell papers. And unfortunately, not always the positive stories sell. People, if there's a scandal going on, or if there's something, you know, slightly negative, it sells more papers because that's what people want to read. I don't know. I guess it's just human nature.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How much do you think the media plays a role in the outcome of elections?
I don't think they do. I know that, and I'm saying this as somebody who's gotten endorsements, but yes, you want the endorsements and everything, but there's been so many people who've gotten endorsed who still lost their race.
Mm.
You
I
think,
think if you really, it's the communication with the community that's what makes a difference. Are you connected with your community?
do you think coverage would play a role in that? Just if there's 4, 5, 6 candidates, but 4 of them are getting way more coverage than the other 2, even if the other 2 are top-notch candidates, do you think that would play a role, or does it then come down on the candidate themselves to go out and almost kind of force themselves into the public view to see, get the people to see them?
Well, you got to ask yourself, why are they focusing on these specific ones? And I won't say that there's not bias in media, because there is.
Mhm.
Who do you know? Who do you know who knows who you know? A lot of times there's phone calls that are made, can you help promote this candidate? Or, can you run this story about this particular candidate? A lot of reporters are fed news articles. So it could be, Devonn, you may be the best candidate possible, but your opponent sitting next to you may have a little bit of dirt on you that he can sell to a reporter. So by him putting you down, he's pushing himself up. Does that make him a better candidate? No. Maybe a little bit better at marketing.
Yeah. How do you? Okay, so let's say I was running against Pierce. How do you think I should handle that?
So what do you do?
I always say take the high road, because what I have seen in these elections is that when people go negative, it turns off the voters. It really does, because all you're doing is attacking, but you're not talking about what you're bringing to the table. You can find something wrong with anybody. Oh, he wore red. Every time I see him, he got on red. You can always find something negative to say, but what are you doing to combat this negativity that you're putting out there?
Mm.
Because if all you're saying is, yeah, he voted no 3 times, on this particular initiative, but you don't know the background on that initiative, you just opened yourself up so that when there is a debate or something, then you have that opportunity to go to Fierce and say, yes, my opponent is attacking me because I voted no on this ordinance 3 times. But what he doesn't know is the reason I voted no is because it would cost the city, $5 million if we were to move forward. And that means that we would have to raise your taxes. So you just shut him down in a debate and made him look silly, because while he's attacking you, he doesn't understand the issue.
Mm.
That's an ideal way to handle it. I feel like sometimes it turns into almost a shouting match of who
It does.
person look.
Emotions run high during campaigns.
Exactly.
Right. Emotions run high. A lot of times it becomes overly personal. It should never become personal. That's why I say you take the high road as long as you are sticking to the facts. What is it that you're bringing to the table?
Mhm.
That's what it comes down to at the end of the day. That's all the voters want to know. What are you bringing to the table? You can tell me X about this person all day long. Okay, I've seen what they're doing, but what are you doing? What have you done? Remember what I said before?
Yeah.
Is this a pop-up candidate that just popped up during, petition time, who's done nothing, but now they're making all these promises and tearing down somebody else in the
Mhm.
process? Or is this somebody that's really been out there making a difference?
Mm. Mm.
And I also feel like whoever is negative, whoever doing dirt, and eventually it all comes to the light.
It all
So
comes to light.
I definitely think it does, but sometimes there's dirt that hasn't brought to the light yet, and because of that dirt and those blackmails and those things behind the scenes happen, it makes people like us upset because yet and again, people like 2 politicians, like say me and him were running against each other. Now because we're beefing over something that I may have done in high school that he brought up that was really petty. Now it's affecting the people, and that's the part that really like sets us off.
Mm-hmm.
It's
That happens.
yeah, it's really hard to like. How do you like what's your take on people who value or prioritize personal bickering and beefs over caring for people?
When we started this out, I said, not everybody's meant to be an elected official. you know, you can't take everything personal. I've had opponents in the past They've attacked me on just about everything under the sun, but I don't take it personally. You can't, because once you take it personal and you start responding personally, you've given that person an edge. You have to remain professional at all times. And sometimes it is hard to keep your composure when you're talking to somebody or somebody's talking at you. And number one, they don't know what they're talking about. Or number two, they're just coming at you so strong with so much venom, and you're trying to figure out, where is this coming from? Where is this directed from? Because I really don't know you like that, to where you could, that you feel comfortable bringing this level of negativity or attacking me because you didn't like my one vote on this particular subject, and you want to throw out all of the other, everything else positive that I've done and just focus on one little thing.
Yeah.
And it happens. It definitely happens. But at the end of the day, it's that connection with the community that makes a difference.
Yes, ma'am. All right. So just speaking of connection with the community, why do you have any questions? Like, do you have any advice to our age group or people interested? I know you brought up, going out there and getting involved and, protesting and organizing, things like that. Do you have any other advice for people, for us younger generation, to get involved to make sure our voices are heard?
You can intern with a legislative office. You can volunteer with a legislative office. We all have activities that take an opportunity to really get to know the people who are in office, the people who are thinking about running, and what's going on in the community. Where is your passion at? What are you most interested around? And don't spread yourself thin. I guess that's probably my best advice. It's easy to say, oh, well, I care about the schools, I care about the parks, the library. Find one thing that you can make a change in. And then once you've made a change there, then you can move on then you can build on that to the next change. But when you spread yourself thin, you get burnt out and then you give up. But if you focus on one thing that you want to change, you can make that change happen, because that is your primary focus. And you're doing everything, you're directing your energies, you're gathering other people. And because of your passion, they're excited to work with you to make that change happen.
Now, this is my last question, unless you had anything else. But politics kind of changed a lot these past 4 years. What have you learned in these past 4 years, in this past term, about politics, or how it's changed, where you think it's going? Have you noticed anything different?
I've noticed a lot, not all of it good. With this last presidential election, I found a lot of people that I thought were rational individuals were undercover racist, and I lost some friends. I actually lost some friends behind it. Just listening to some of the things that they were saying and some of the justification that they used, in regard to to the former president, in regard to a lot of the violence that was occurring, the whole Black Lives Matter issue. That there were individuals who I just looked at and I'm like, you know what, I can't do this with you. If this is truly how you feel, this is truly what you think, then I can only imagine how you think about me when we're not together. Oh no, this doesn't apply to you. It's those people. Well, guess what? I'm one of those people. So you can't use that terminology with me, and then I think that the underbelly of racism was really exposed. For a lot of times, people just had felt that racism had been tampered down, and that, up here in the North, oh, we're the North, we're not the South. But guess what? We had just as much racism up here as they did down there. And it actually came out. And it came out in just various astonishing ways that people were not expecting. And, like I said, people who you thought were your friends, you actually got a chance to see how they really thought when you weren't around. So we got a chance to see that with the whole presidential race and everything that went with that. I was surprised at how it turned out. Neither of those were my top candidates. I wouldn't, I wasn't feeling either one. So, but it is what it is, and that's who we ended up with. But I think people were just looking for change. People were just looking for hope. They were praying for better than what we had had. They were praying for a healing in the community. I think even those individuals who didn't like the Black Lives Matter, mantra, or who wanted to attack the founders and not so much the ideology behind it. I think a lot of those individuals actually were hoping for change as well. So there was a lot of positive things that happened in this whole last election cycle. I think that we are on a path to moving forward. I know that the Legislative Black Caucus, we were able to build upon the momentum of what happened in that 8 minutes and 46 seconds that I'm never going to let go of. Because of that, we were able to move the needle, this needle that had been stuck to the right. We were able to move that. We're past middle now and leaning more to the left, and I'm so thankful. We have a state's attorney now who actually gets it and understands that law was meant to protect and serve and not to be punitive, to a select group of minorities. Things have really brightened up and we're moving in the right direction for once. And I think we need to continue to build on that, not lose momentum, and just understand that these are just small steps to where we need to be. We don't have equity yet, but we're getting closer to it.
That was a great answer, by the way, but I had one more question. You mentioned how neither one of the candidates were your choice. They weren't my choice either. I don't know if they were your choice. But how do you think it's important to give a chance for other parties to get their voice heard more? Because I feel like, and obviously they're out there, of course, but when it comes down to elections, it's just always focused on Democrat and Republican. And I feel like sometimes people may feel that those two options aren't the best to represent them. But a lot of the times when you have other parties trying to get a voice heard, again, we can go to the media, for example, they just won't give them the time of day. They don't give them nearly as much airtime. They don't let them explain themselves. So do you think it's important to have other parties be just as prominent as the Democrats or Republicans, or do you think it's cool with how everything's going as of right now?
Oh, no, absolutely. I believe everybody deserves a voice, and I know that we have like the independent party who is actually, they're growing. The number of independent voters are actually growing, and they're gonna, at some point, they have to be recognized, because I believe that we're gonna end up with a 3-party system. And I know we have the Green Party and all these other ones out there, but right now, if you look at the momentum that's building, you have so many people that are frustrated with the Republican Party, with the Democratic Party, and they're looking for, a way out. They're looking for an alternative, and they're starting to move toward that independent. So I really see that those individuals who are running as independents, who are expressing that independent voice, I see them at some point coming up, and our 2-party going to a 3-party. Now, does that going to mean that we're going to eventually have that Green Party candidate? I don't know, but I think as the numbers continue to shift, I believe that some of these other parties will start to get more of a voice. I don't understand why media, I guess maybe it doesn't sell papers. It comes down to selling papers. You just have to, some of these individuals are interesting persons. I try to look at all the different candidates, particularly in a presidential race, because some of them are a little bit out there, and I just want to see what their views are, like, okay, that's a different take on these things. But I believe that everybody, when we do the presidential debates, it's always the Democrat versus the Republican. Let's throw a few more people up there on the stage. Let's hear from everybody, at least until, we figure out which way we want to go. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then narrow it down from there.
Yeah, definitely. So, and this is my last point, but
no, I'm good.
So you would say that you feel that there's almost a shift kind of going with how politics were and how, that tradition towards now in the future, and how we're going to perceive things and how elections are going to be ran and everything like that? Would you say that there's a shift happening?
There's definitely a shift. The more millennials I talk to, they're more non-conforming. They don't want to be, in the Republican Party. They don't want to be in that old traditional Democratic Party. These are where the independents are coming from. They're like, I want to have my voice. I want a party that represents me. I hear it over and over again. And it is not the traditional two-party system. And that's why I said this shift for independence is starting to grow. And they're asking for more leverage, in the voting. They're asking, because right now, if you want to run as an independent, you need 3 times the numbers of a Democrat or a Republican. So they're asking for some changes in the law. They're asking, for some parity to say, hey, we have a voice too, and we want to be heard. So things are starting to shift. And it's going to be interesting to see how these two parties, the Democrat and Republican parties, respond to these individuals, because you don't want to lose that millennial vote. How do you engage? And this is a conversation that we have all the time. How do you engage these millennials who really, don't want to belong to their grandparents' party? They're looking for something new. They're looking for something that's more representative of them.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I'm glad to hear that that conversation is actually happening within the government. It's good to know that they care, or at least seemingly do.
Because that was my next point too. He's been talking about it for years, how he feels like, not to disrespect either party, but, everyone's always pushed Democrat, Republican. But out of the 7.7 billion people on this planet, he's always been saying, like, there's no way that they only have 2 different kinds of minds. You got to have a bunch of people who are going to fall in between. You've been saying that for a very long time.
That for a long time.
And it makes sense, though, because you can't expect that many people to think the same. It does not make sense. If we had a world like that, it'd be a horrible world. There'd be no conflict, there'd be no discussion, no growth, no anything. Mm-hmm. I'm glad you got to ask that question.
Yeah, I was looking forward to asking.
I know this was on your chest for years.
Yeah. Well, it's a conversation that has come up. It's a topic that's come up several times. So I'm not sure how the powers that be are going to address that.
Right.
But I do know that it has been coming up. I know that when I get invited to the independent candidate forums, I go. I'm like, hey, I'll show up anywhere to have a conversation. But you have to be willing. And this is what I go back to, listening to the individuals in your district, listening to your constituents, because you have to meet them at their level where they are. I can't push my agenda on you. I need to hear your agenda and how I can shape my agenda to match the needs of the community.
Right. Yeah. Very insightful.
Good deal.
Very insightful.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I don't have anything else to do.
No, I got all my questions.
I got all my questions. Everything I need.
I answered everything. Okay. All right.
You're a busy woman, so I don't want to take too much of your
time. Do you have any questions for us though?
No, I thought this was really great. Anytime you guys want to have me back on any topic, I am more than willing to come back and have this conversation again. I thought this was great. This was probably one of my better interviews. You guys had really good questions. You did. You really did.
That's great. Thank you so much. That means a lot. Thank you.
Actually, I got a question. Well, what are you listening to right now, music-wise?
Spotify. I do my own playlist. I'm a little weird. My tastes are very eclectic. I like country music, some country music. I like new age rock. I listen to a lot of the alternative stations that people have never heard of, and groups you don't even know. But I just like different music.
That's good.
I like tribal sounds. Like I said, I'm a little different. I'm a little different.
Awesome. I feel like everyone should have that type of music taste,
Yeah, so if you're in the car with me, you'll go from rock to soul to country to some kind of native spiritual type music. And you'd be like, okay, where did this come from?
You're just on shuffle the entire time.
Yes, I am totally random. My music, yes. But that's the best way to have, right? The best music.
Yeah. No, you never know what you'll like to listen to.
It's definitely good to have things in rotation, because you never, like, as me, as someone who can be often sometimes closed-minded with music, it definitely helps to explore yourself different things.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Ms. Mayfield.
Thank you so much.
Really, tell everyone your social medias where they can find you at.
Oh, yes. State Representative Rita Mayfield, representing the 60th District, Waukegan, North Chicago, with parts of Beach Park, Gurnee, and Wadsworth. You can find me at www.ritamayfield60@gmail.com. ritamayfield.com. Sorry. My email is ritamayfield60@gmail.com. You can hit me in my office, 847-599-2800. 60th District @gmail.com is another really good email for me. But everything you need is on my website, ritamayfield.com. All right. Hit me on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. Hashtag Rita Mayfield.
Yeah, you got
You
them
got
all.
them all,
Yeah,
man.
you know, Joe.
My social media is Instagram is Pierce_Michael1. Snapchat's P Bugs is PB00GS. It's also P Bugs on Apple Music. Too bad you don't have Apple Music because I would tell you to follow me because I think you'd like my music taste because I got it all. I got it all. Maybe some other time. So that's all me. What about you?
Devonn, I got hacked on my Facebook, so that sucks. So I can't promote my Facebook. But DStreets815 on Twitter, Devonn Allen on Instagram. More importantly, ISD and School Detention on all your podcast platforms and on YouTube as well, guys. Please check us out. You're not guys.
No.
You when I said that. But but thank you guys so much for tuning in. You guys have a great week.
Peace.
Thank you.